Charlotte. Welcome to Landscape Photography World. Nice to have you on the show. Thank you for being my guest this week.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Excellent. Let's talk about landscape photography because that's effectively what this podcast is all about and what it means to you. What is landscape photography in your life?
Oh, boy. Well, in my life, it's my zen. It's what I do to relax. It's like what most people do for yoga and meditation. I do landscape photography because it gives me incredible relaxation and peace from initially what was a pretty hectic and crazy life. I found such peace, such relaxation in it. That's why I started doing it.
No,
And that's what it is now for me, pretty much.
it's purely a relaxational hobby, or is it more than that?
I'm an artist. I've always been an artist for my life. And so it's always been not a hobby. It's been something that's a thread that runs through my life. I've got a camera for my 16th birthday. It was a Pentax ME Super. And that's when I got started with photography, and I loved it. But then it was a hobby for sure. So maybe it stayed a hobby through my whole life. But then when I became a graphic designer, it became a tool that I used. Before that, I was studying journalism. So it was part of, again, something I did to communicate. It was a communication tool. The camera has always been a tool in my life as an artist. And when I started doing landscape photography, it became a tool of relaxation for me. It was what I did after years of having a career as a graphic designer and doing exactly what people told me to do. Doing landscape photography was something I could do that nobody had to tell me what to do. I could do it just to please me visually. And I'm sure, Grant, you've had that experience of being out in the field where you get into that rhythm
Yeah.
and that groove where time just completely disappears.
Yeah.
And it's very amazing. It's an amazing thing to experience. And I seek that out where time just stands still.
Excellent. You brought up a couple of things that I want to dive into. One of which is that transition from where it was a tool and something that you worked with, it was part of your career, and where the art started, which is what it sounds like to me you were describing when you said, okay, I can go and do whatever I want. Now, I know graphic design is art, so it's probably a fine line, but I'm interested in, and I ask this of a lot of photographers that I speak to, why and where did that epiphany happen that you said, oh, this is actually something for me. This is something that releases some kind of creativity in me, as opposed to being a documentary tool or a tool for work. Where did that happen for you?
Oh, it's a good question. I think it happened probably after I sold my design business, after I got stressed out helping my husband's software business, helping him get that going, not just going, but strategically. Anyway, I don't want to go into all that. But
Yeah, sure.
it was a very stressful kind of time in my life. And a friend of mine said, hey, have you checked out what you can do these days with the digital cameras? And I had a digital camera, but I still wasn't, I didn't like the quality of digital cameras. I was still living in the I liked film-based cameras. I didn't like
The early days of digital film was definitely still king, and it had that look and feel that just you didn't get from digital.
it was flat, it was ugly. I didn't like it. And he said, oh, they're coming a long ways, and look at what you can do with like HDR. And he showed me, and I went, that's awful. It's really awful. That's what you have to do to get dynamic range. It's like you have to stack these. And it was like, and everybody was doing it. And I was really resisting all of that. I really did it hard because I really hated that look. But what really intrigued me was the technology, because technology had come such a long ways. And I was busy saying, no, I don't want to be part of that digital world. I don't like how they look. But then what I noticed is that I started shooting again. I got I got a couple nice lenses. I got a tilt shift lens just for fun, just for screwing around with. And I started experimenting more, and I started realizing you can still get dynamic range if you shoot like in low contrast situation.
Sure.
The camera can handle that. And you don't have to do HDR if you just shoot in very low contrast. So I started shooting more kind of what are now, back then it was just low contrast, but somebody told me my work looked like Elliott Quarters.
Okay.
And it turns out that he was doing a lot of that same kind of stuff. Exact same thing, like taking advantage of the camera's abilities, which
Yeah, working within the range that the cameras of the day had.
yeah, exactly. And so that's what I started to do. So a lot of my early work back in 2009, 10, back in there, I was working with digital cameras, but they were all really low contrast situations. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Does that answer your question?
I'm just interested, as I say, in that moment when you went, oh, okay, this is art and this is for me.
Yeah. No, it's always been art for me.
Yeah.
Photography has always been art, always. It's just woven its way in and out of my life for
Mm.
my entire life. And now this doing. It could be, Grant, that next year I'm doing street photography. So don't put me in a box.
I definitely don't want people. And just for your reference, street photography, as long as it's not focused on the people so much, is still landscape photography as far as I'm concerned. It's just a landscape.
But I think the key difference right now is that I'm not doing it to please anybody else but myself. That was the real difference, was that I wasn't taking pictures for anyone else but me.
Yeah, nice. And part of that process of doing things for yourself, I'm interested in, obviously somebody said to you, hey, look at what digital can do now. Where did you start to pick up and learn the processes beyond what you were thinking was possible and started to go, okay, here's where I can actually experiment? And have you done much experimentation with your work?
Oh, sure. I was a really early adopter of Photoshop way back in the 90s. So for my clients, I was already doing photo montages and interesting stuff and I was already art directing lots of other photographers. So I was hiring lots of photographers and using their work to do compositions for graphic design and for hired work. So I was already there, like I was already digital in that world. I already knew the tools, knew how to handle the tools. I was technically very capable of doing the work. So what technically didn't have the expertise or the ability to do it. I think that the difference though was when you go from photographing food, people, studio, all that stuff, street, whatever, and you go to nature, there's like your subject is chaotic. Your subject sometimes isn't neat. I struggled with that a lot first because I was trying to say, I want to be outside. I want to be outside. I want to be in nature. Like, how do I take pictures that aren't awful? Because my pictures were awful. And I was a photographer and I couldn't take a decent picture of Yosemite where I went to all the time. And what is wrong with me that I cannot do this? And it turned out to be simple. I just had to make peace with a tripod. I didn't like using a tripod. I hated it. And cameras back then didn't have the kind of image stabilization that they have now. You had a camera on a tripod, period. You just had to. And I fought against that. I didn't like tripods. I thought they were clumsy. It took me probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, really, to make peace with using a tripod. I went through 3 tripods before I found one. And I just came to terms like, you need a big tripod. You're a tall woman and you need a tall tripod. So stop using these little travel ones. And I broke my camera. So that was the biggest leap for me. It was just coming to peace with a tripod and then going, okay, now that I have the camera on a tripod, now I can slow down a lot and think about what I'm doing. And that made all of the difference in the world. That and a decent lens. I finally invested in a pro level lens for my Canon. I'm beyond Canon now, but I still have a Canon, but back then getting a pro lens made a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that when you made peace with your tripod is something that is really interesting because I've I won't say I've always used a tripod, but I've always been comfortable with one, and so it just seems a bit anathema to me that somebody would hate one. And I get nowadays it's completely different because you've got the image stabilization in lens, in body. You can get up to, I think the OM1 from Olympus is something like seven or eight stops of image stabilization, which is just incredible that you can actually stop down that far and still get a stable image. But for me, it was always something that was just there and part of the toolkit and something that you just, apart from one day where I went on a 5 mile hike and to a waterfall and discovered that in my bag, I didn't have my tripod head.
Oh, whoops.
I took some faster shutter speed shots and did a 5 mile hike back. Yeah, they weren't great shots. They were shots of a waterfall, but they weren't what I went there to.
Oh, right. We've all had those moments, that's for sure.
But I wasn't going to walk back and then back again just to find the head. Actually, I knew it would have been a walk back, a drive home for about an hour and a half, and then a drive back for an hour and a half, and then another 5 mile hike back in. Yeah, that wasn't going to happen. And I still haven't been back to that place, probably simply because the PTSD is hard.
Also, maybe some bad memories. Huh?
That's it. That's it. What is it that I guess motivates you and inspires you? Is it a place? Is it a feeling? Is it a person? Where does your inspiration sort of spring from?
Oh, for photography, for landscape photography, I'm very oriented. I really fall in love with places. And right now, the place I've been having a love affair with for a very long time is Yosemite National Park.
Oh.
I could live there the rest of my life and still not discover its secrets. And every time I go there, which is frequently, my husband and I are building a house there right now.
Oh, no.
We're up there basically every other week. And we try to do something we've never done before every time. And this is not difficult to do, to find something new, find a place. You walk out your door and you can find some place new that you haven't seen before. So that sense of discovery and falling in love with a place, that's what motivates me hugely.
Nice. Yeah. You mentioned Yosemite and that it's obviously been a big part of your photography. Talk to me a little bit about how that love affair came about. Was it that first said, this is it, this is the place I want to spend my time, I want to build a house here?
Gosh, I think my love affair with Yosemite started when I was a child, and we would go there as a family, not very often. I'm from a big family. I'm the youngest of 9 kids. And
Okay.
moving 9 children around is not trivial. So we only got up a few times when I was little. But then as soon as I was able to get there on my own as a young adult, I was up in Yosemite as much as I could.
Nice.
When I got married and my husband and I would spend our anniversaries in Yosemite, my birthdays in Yosemite, like any excuse. And I would literally cry when I'd have to leave because it just hurt to have to leave. I just,
Wow.
like I needed to stay there. Like somehow this place was in my bones.
Yeah.
And I think that's when I decided we need to figure out a way to be here. We did. We're building a house. We're almost done. We've been at it for 5 years.
Wow.
So we should have it done by the end of this year. And we love it. I'm so ready for it to be done because I'm so tired of living in the truck camper and looking out my door at my unfinished house. But we're almost there. And I can't wait to be up there all the time.
Yeah, fantastic. And I'm really interested in what people's creative processes are like in terms of setting yourself a creative challenge. Do you set yourself creative challenges?
I do I do. I have projects that I work on. Of
Okay.
course. Yeah.
And what does that process look like?
But usually process looks like me beating myself up for being lazy and not working hard enough, coming up with an idea for something that I want to work on, and then just Usually my projects are very long term.
Right.
I don't say next week you're going to do this. This is something that's been tickling the back of my mind for a long time, and I'm going to work on this for the next however long it takes to do this.
Okay.
And that's what I do. Right.
And do you have multiple projects going at the same time?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Because the way life works is in my projects, they present them, they show themselves when they show themselves when I see them. If it's a themed photography project, then you can't always predict when that is going to show up. You just have to be ready. So I usually have my camera nearby. I don't go anywhere without my camera bag nearby.
How much has your experience in graphic design influenced your landscape photography and the work that you've done for yourself?
In studying graphic design, of course, you're trained in all of the arts. You're trained in painting, you're trained in drawing, trained in composition, you're trained in color. You spend all your days thinking about these things to the point where you can't look at a billboard without understanding how this billboard was constructed.
Sure.
Look at a magazine without understanding the underpinnings of it and how it was constructed. So obviously, putting together a photograph and constructing a photograph has the underpinnings of composition. And if you know really anything about me, that's where I really hang my hat, is on composition.
Sure.
My background in graphic design, I have a very strongly rooted base in composition. It's super, super important to me and to express my work. So other than that, though, being a graphic artist is nothing like being a natural landscape photographer.
I guess aside from maybe some of the editing, if you're doing a composite or something like that. I know from my own experience, I don't come from a graphic design background. I actually come from an IT background, but part of my career, I actually worked with an airline setting up their website from scratch. So I had to delve into, and it was literally my project to build that thing. So I had to understand all of the intricate workings of the scripts we were using, the code, but also the graphic design, how that graphic design was going to get translated into code and be displayed. And that taught me quite a lot about graphic design, composition, etc., quite early on, and learned quite a lot about graphic design from the graphic designer we'd hired to put things together. And then that sort of clicked back into some of the photography stuff that I was doing at the time. And that, I guess, helped me develop my way of working in Photoshop as well, by grabbing some of those tools and understanding them better and how to actually work with elements inside Photoshop. And I know from my own experience that it really helped a lot in terms of the post-processing side of things. But also, as you said, in the compositional side of things, actually working for balance and working for different shapes and leading lines, et cetera, and getting people to understand the image using a visual language. And that's exactly what creative design is all about, is giving people a visual language to understand an image and take that message away, because that's really what you're trying to do with it. Is that what you're trying to do with your photography as well? Are you using a visual language to explain a story or give somebody hints as to what you were thinking in the moment?
Yeah, sure, of course. And I like what you said about visual language, because I think it is a language and it is something that you use to communicate. And there's the technical part of composition, but there's also, as you mentioned, like the intersection of all these different parts of your life that intersect, and you bring all of those life experiences to bear on your photography, whether you're conscious about it or not. You do. I studied art history as part of my art degree, and so you internalize those things that you learn when you're studying a master's painting. You internalize all of that, and so that when you are composing, you're not thinking, oh, like, this is where I want to put my subject, or this is that or that. It's if you've done this enough, it's so instinctual. It's so in your bones. You don't even think about it. I don't even think about it anymore. I can lift up the camera and feel whether a composition feels right or not.
Yeah.
I can analyze it till the cows come home and tell you exactly why it works and doesn't work. I can take it down to technically why this works. But if you do something enough, there's no words. It's another part of your brain that kicks in. I don't know if you've felt that before.
Absolutely. I'm just trying to think of the term and my brain's not working. But there is a term for it where you actually go from being consciously conscious of what you're doing and
Unconscious.
yes, to where unconsciously you can just have the capability to do something without thinking about it. It's like riding a bike or driving a car. At some point, if you drive stick, as you Americans call it, we call it manual. It's just instinctive from the revs of the engine. You know where your foot is on the accelerator, everything that feels the speed you're going, etc. You know what gear you want to put it into next, and your left foot goes on the clutch, and your left arm. For you guys on the other side of the planet, it's the right arm and right leg. But you know what I'm saying is that you don't think about that, but it all just happens and you get into the right gear and off you go.
It's just like that. And it's not to say there aren't times where you're just like, you can't get things to quite work out in a frame and you have to move your body this way and move that way. And you have to like futz around for quite a while to get it all to work in a frame. I'm not saying that it's just like magically, somehow magically everything just
Yeah, you just happen to stand in the right place every time.
every time. But it gets easier, is what I'm trying to say. It becomes more relaxing.
I do know what you're trying to say.
Thanks.
With that visual language, what is it that you are trying to communicate? Do you have stories in your head whilst you're in the field thinking about, okay, this is going to be a picture about blah, whatever it happens to be, that mountain, that river, that tree? Or is it something more ephemeral and more opaque to the viewer and they've got to interpret themselves?
I feel if I can make work that makes me feel emotionally moved, it moves me emotionally, then there's some hope that it's going to emotionally move someone else. But I don't take responsibility for that other person's response to my work. They may love it, they may hate it, they may emotionally respond to it. But I figure if I can make something that I just go, oh my goodness, that's it. That lovely. That's takes my breath away. Then hopefully I can communicate that to another person when they see it. So that said, the process looks like, let's figure out what is going on in the environment right now. What's really amazing? Are there blossoms? Is it water? Is it, light? What is happening right now? What's the most special thing that is happening right now? And then that is where I'll start with whatever that is. And that can be pre-planned to a degree.
Okay.
So like right now, it's summer here in California and it's been warm. And so nothing's really like just hot and bright but still you show up at the river and like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
We've got some light. We've got bright sunny skies. Oh, a starburst. So we
Why
can
not?
dark all day long because we've got like no clouds and a high sun. So it's always something. There's always something to photograph. I don't run out of things to photograph, but things that are truly moving, things that really make you feel something. You got to get up early and you got to seek out special conditions to get those kinds of photographs, in my opinion. And they're all the more special because oftentimes you find yourself alone, like
Absolutely. Yeah.
and you're witnessing what nature's doing and you're by yourself. And sometimes I'm like, where is everybody? This is so beautiful.
Oh, that feeling. Do you like to be alone when you're doing photography, or are you happy in a group?
Either way, I think I'm more happy alone.
Yeah.
I can't really get into my little Zen thing I was telling you about if I'm with a group, but I'm a social person and I like people and being around people. But if I'm around people, I don't work as hard.
Yeah, I tend to take worse photos when I'm with other people because more about the conversation and social than it is about the photography. And I'm thinking about, oh, what are we going to have for breakfast or something like that.
No, my best work comes when I'm by myself,
Yeah.
for sure.
I'm very much that way. And quite often the only other people I see are early morning swimmers or rock fishermen. And because I'm here on the coast and doing a lot of coastal photography, they're literally the only other people. Occasionally I'll bump into another photographer. But that's the nice thing about where I live and the way that I photograph and the times that I photograph. I know that I'm seeing something that 99.9% of the population in a city of 5 million people aren't seeing.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you get up early a lot and go out?
Not as often as you would. I do like a sleep in. I had one today, actually. It was nice. But I was up late editing stuff. I thought I deserved a bit of a sleep in this morning. But yeah, I do enjoy getting up early. It's just part of what I am and what I've always done. And I rarely have a problem with getting up. It's as I get older, I've noticed it's got a little bit harder, but it is something that is an absolute joy being out there, as you say, with no other people and having this magical view appear before your eyes as the sun comes up. And just seeing that for me is a special part of life. And it goes to what you were saying earlier. It is all about something that's a thread in me and always has been, always will be.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah. What's next? What's next for you after photography? Is there other creative endeavors you're going to do?
Podcasting's one, but I've been doing a little bit of experimentation. I haven't done one for a little while, but I don't know if you've heard of marbling, which
No.
what you do is you get and it's important that it's a white tray for what I'm doing with it, a white sort of flat tray, and you fill that with a sized liquid, which is something that you can float colour on. And you then get inks and milk and whatever juice, whatever you name it. If you can make a colour with it, you get an eyedropper and just drop droplets of this onto that size, and they spread out and move and mingle. And then you can get a toothpick or a toothbrush or a handle of a spoon or something and stir them around a little bit, and they all start to blend and move around on the size. And I sit there, I've got a rig with my tripod so that I can get a straight down. It's basically got a counterbalance arm that comes out horizontally from the tripod so that I can get a top down, just frame it up with a 50mm lens and take photos of what happens in that little tray. And
How fun.
yeah, it's just something creative. It's photography again, but it's completely different to landscape because you literally have no idea what is going to happen because each drop that you put on does something slightly different. And the colours, but also the types of material, if you put, say, orange juice on, it's quite acidic. And so it will interact with some of the inks differently to, say, milk. And you just play around and it's completely and utterly creative and really relaxing. And you can really slow down and just take your time and have a look at this thing and work out what you want to do. Yeah, it's just a huge amount of fun with a bucket of water, basically.
Crazy. Advanced barista latte foam making.
Yeah, with multiple colours and different textures.
Colors.
Yeah, some things have bubbles in them, some don't. And yeah, I've seen people where they've actually put the tray on a very slight angle so things will run down slowly. And so there's all sorts of little tricks and things. People put glitter in some of the liquids so that sort of has texture and whatever. So there's lots of things that you can play around with. It is literal. Just play with your imagination, have a think about what might work and what might not. Some stuff just doesn't work and it comes out brown and looks horrible. So I don't take photos of that. But
There's something really wonderful. It reminds me a little bit of the sand art.
yeah.
So that they just disappear. It's ephemeral, what you do. You make something, then it's gone.
That's it. Because once you put another drop on, the whole thing changes. And once you move it with a handle of a spoon or something, everything changes. And everything that you do to it changes it. And it is so ephemeral and different. And in a lot of ways, it's a bit like going back to childhood and just experimenting and playing, and it's a really fun activity. I recommend it to anyone who wants to relax for about 4 or 5 or 6 hours. My wife hates it because I take up the entire kitchen table with my contraption, because the tray's about 2 foot by a foot, and I've got the tripod on the table. I've got a lighting rig beside the table, lighting it properly so I'm not getting reflections, all that sort of thing. A diffuser on the light and everything.
Aren't people amazingly creative? Like, who came up with the idea of marbling?
I don't know where it came from, but I do know it used to be used. What you can do, if it's ink anyway, I don't know if all is you put it on paper. And so the end pieces of quite a lot of Victorian age books, and I think maybe even earlier, using marbling techniques. So a lot of those were printed using marbling. And so it stems from that. I don't know if it was a bookmaking thing or I've never actually delved into the history of marbling, but yeah, whoever came up with it, they're a genius, and I love it.
Very cool. Try that out one of these days.
Absolutely. What about for yourself? I'm interested in what you have next after landscape photography. Is there an after landscape photography?
It's like I said, I'm a career artist. I'm building a house right now, and that is like the biggest art project I've ever taken on in my life.
Sure.
Like every single decision, I'm right there. Like how materials are going to intersect and work together. Like that has to be figured out. And what is that material? And it's such a creation. It's like it's a come true to be able to build something from the ground up. And the contractors that can build a house, I think, wow, what a superpower is that to know how to build a house.
Yeah.
What a talent to have. And then to be part of that process and to envision it and tell them, like, this is what I want it to look like. And then they do it.
Getting them to interpret what you're saying into something real and physical. Yeah, it's amazing.
Amazing. So this is like we used to call it like, it's a custom home. And then it was like, it's a very custom home. Now it's no, it's an art project. and it's delightful. But before the house, I've been doing photography. And before that, I was doing music, and I was writing and producing and running concert series. You say that I'm a career artist because, there'll be something else after the house is done. I don't know what I'll do, something. I don't know. Maybe I'll start writing poetry, or maybe I'll start painting. I don't know. But photography has always been a thread through my life. So I will always have a camera nearby in my hands to make a photograph when I can. Always.
I'm very much the same. And like you and your husband, my wife and I, we're currently building a house as well. And I say building, sorry, we're planning a house at the moment. So we're working with a contractor to finalise all of those thought bubbles about, how big do I want my laundry to be, and so forth.
Hey, it's creative.
Absolutely. What colour goes? We have a kitchen table. It's one of the reasons why I haven't done marbling recently is because of the house. We've got a kitchen table covered with colour chips and different textures and things and mood boards and what. The wife and I are saying, that one doesn't go. Yeah, that one's got too much red in it, too much yellow.
That's fantastic.
It's a lot of fun. But we're hoping probably by the end of the year the build might actually have started. So.
Oh wow, where are you building?
The Central Coast, so about an hour and a half away from where we are now. We're about 250 metres from the shore of Lake Macquarie. And where we're going to is about probably a 7 or 8 minute drive to surf beaches. So there's roughly within a half hour, there's at least 24 surf beaches that I can choose from.
Do you surf?
I used to. I've got knees that don't work now. I do a bit of body surfing now, and bodyboarding, but I don't stand up anymore because the knees won't just spring into action like they used to.
Oh, wonderful. That's such a wonderful project to do together, too.
Yeah. The process is stressful, but amazing. It really is a lot of fun in a lot of ways, but it's also got its moments.
I wish you luck. We're at the home stretch. We should have a house by the end of the year, like I said.
Nice.
It's been quite a journey.
Yeah, I can imagine. 5 years is a long time. Yeah. We've been going now for a little over 9 months, and as I say, I'm hoping that we'll have started by the end of the year.
Yeah. Ours is unusual that it's taking so long. It should it should have been done a while ago, but we made decisions that delayed it.
Yeah,
And
correct. Back to photography. All this. What does success look like for you in your photography?
it looks like having work that is maybe unique and different from how other people see it. It's having my work out there in in print form, which I love printing. I love making prints. I have gallery representation right now, so I'm getting orders for prints, which is really nice.
Okay.
So I really enjoy that a lot. I think that there's a lot of homogenization in landscape photography right now. And I really strive to not have my work part of that. I try to stretch beyond that. And it's hard because you come out with something and then, it is into the fold again. You know what I mean? So I really put a lot of value on original work. Maybe too much value. I don't know. So I get really hard on myself if my work turns out that maybe it wasn't as original as I thought it was.
Okay.
But I really try hard. So success for me is to try to come up with something that's maybe different than how anybody else saw this place.
Yeah.
As you can imagine, photographing Yosemite, which has been photographed a gazillion times.
There's a few shots of it on
A
the.
few by photographers far better than me, but I still try really hard to do and say something different about this place that feels like it's my own. So that's success to me, is doing that kind of work and hopefully somebody resonating with it.
Yeah.
Saying, yeah, that's a little different.
Yeah. You mentioned you've got gallery representation. How's that process been in finding the right place to represent your work and actually working with them? I'm just interested in different people's experience. Some people set up their own galleries and then they've got complete control. But I'm very interested in people that have actually gone down that route of getting representation and how that process has worked for them.
I'm represented by the Ansel Adams Gallery in Yosemite National Park, and it's been a long time relationship I've had with them. I love this gallery. They sell the heck out of my work, which I'm very grateful for. I got my start with them. I took classes in there from their workshops back when. It feels like the right fit for me. I can't imagine not being represented by them because it is such a good fit. But maybe it's not for everybody. I work really hard to make sure that I get them what they need and when they need it. And I listen really hard to what they're telling me about what people want. Although I really hard not to let that influence my work too much. I think the most distressing part about working with a gallery is that you don't have any control over what people are going to buy and what they're going to. You can be really surprised. Like you can be in love with a piece that you think, why don't they love this piece as much as I do? And you have no control over that. You really don't. And so, what do you mean they want another one of those? That's not my best piece. And so a lot of the challenge has been just letting go of that and then still continuing to do the work that I want to do, but then giving up control over what people are actually going to want to buy or what they're going to like. Just let go of that because I don't all over it.
Yeah, interesting. I'm also interested in how people think about their own work and when something's good enough as opposed to perfect. Are you a perfectionist and it has to be perfect? Or do you get to a point of looking at an image and going, I could do more, but I don't know that it would actually do much more to it?
Printing your work will bring you to your knees.
I know.
And you might think you're done, and then you go and make a print and you realize you're humbled. You're like, I'm not done. And then someone comes along and they want it in like a 40 by 60 print. That is really humbling because now all of a sudden that little tiny thing is now this big.
Yep.
And type face. Printing your work is that I think that's when it's finally done. It's like when you printed it and it's on the wall and you're looking at it and you're saying, and you can study it, and then you can say, okay, it's done. I have I in our family room here, I put up these things called crit rail. And do you know what a crit rail is?
Yep.
It's in art school. The crit rails is where you, at the beginning of class, had to put up your project and then sprint to the back of the class while
Everyone critiqued it. Yeah.
professor just sent it to shreds. And it was always a little nerve-wracking. But the crit rails are a really important process. And when I'm working on a piece, I will put it in a mat and I'll put it on the crit rail. And I have lights on it. And if I'm making dinner or whatever I'm doing, I'm staring at that print in whatever I'm doing. And after a while, you'll notice things about the prints, like that color is not right. You'll stick some other prints up next to it and you'll say, okay, the color cast is wrong. Or the other thing I'll do is I'll turn it upside down and look at it, because then a whole nother set of problems with the composition might show up.
Yeah. I do that a lot in Photoshop during processing, flip it upside down. That tells me, is it balanced? Is there anything weird that pops out at me when it's upside down, when I didn't notice when it was first there? The other one I use is make it black and white. And that tells me, do I have the right tonal range? Is that too hot? Is that too dark?
Yeah, I do those tricks. The other one I teach people to do is to blur it. Use a really broad Gaussian blur, and that will just take it down to color, like where color is.
Yeah, yeah.
Make out the photo. Like anything you can do to abstract the picture so that you can start analyzing it in terms of shapes and colors and forms. So anything like that, and so that it doesn't continue to be literal. Like it's really hard, I think, for people to say, but it was a beautiful scene. It's not a scene anymore. It's not a scene. Forget that it was a scene. It's just a composition. It's two-dimensional art now. It wasn't, you got to forget about that now. It's now on your crit rail, and you have to be your own worst critic now. You have to be the professor saying, what were you thinking here? Like, how do you defend this little part of this picture?
Yeah. Why is that included and not excluded? Huh?
Exactly. And so that's why I do it for myself. I don't really have anybody that I can do that with. So I have to be my own worst critic. And I'm brutal. I am really mean to myself.
I think, I won't say everyone, but I think a lot of people are their own worst critics. I know I look at some of my things, particularly when I print them, and it's, how did I miss that? And so you go back in and you clean it up and sort out whatever that was. And you then print it again. You print another test print and you look at that and you go, I missed that. Completely different thing, but I missed that, back into the edit. And it is something I think that is really helpful, is having your own critical eye. But I also like to get somebody else to take a look at something, particularly if it's a commission work or something. And it's not the client. I'm not asking the client to do this, but I will ask somebody to come and take a look and say, tell me what the hell is wrong with this. I don't know if anything is or not, but just you tell me what you think. And getting somebody that you trust to actually go through and do that is really helpful too.
Yeah, I encourage people to have one such person in their lives, not 10.
Yeah.
Just one. That's all you need. 10 will just confuse you. Like a camera club, your head will be spinning. But have one trusted critic that you can count on to critique your work. That's something special for sure.
Yeah, makes a big difference.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about shooting, and it might not be Yosemite. What's your most memorable shoot?
Oh, I think that when I think about moments, there was this moment, must have been like 2012 or so. It was pretty early on. And I was with a group, and I can't remember if I was with a group, a photo workshop group. And I think I was assisting on that one, but I was still shooting. And normally when I assist, I shoot sometimes. And on this one, I was either a student or I was shooting, and I was assisting, and I can't remember. But anyway, there was this man from Seattle that was in the group. He was a doctor, a retired doctor, and he had been a Boy Scout leader. And he was just like one of these personalities in the group that was like always get in the group to sing trail songs. Like, got everybody singing, and he was just like this, like really up and cheerful person, like all the time. And we had bushwhacked into this canyon and this canyon was made of solid granite. Like literally, it was this beautiful steep canyon, solid granite, and it was gorgeous. And there was water running down, and I was standing next to him and we had our tripod legs crossed. And I said, wow, I could do this all day. I am like so happy right here with this light. I could just do this all day. And he said, yeah, this is nice. He said, but the reason I'm doing this is because this camera here that I'm using was my son, and my son died.
Oh, wow.
And the reason I do this is so that I can feel close to my son again. And that, I will never forget that. It has their reasons that they do photography,
Oh, yeah.
but the connection that he felt to his son by just the act of doing this. And it just, I'll never forget that.
Mm.
I stood there bawling.
Imagine.
And he wasn't sad about it.
Yeah, nice.
And it turns out it was out of this really crazy coincidence. He and I had friends in common in Seattle. He was from Seattle, and we had close friends in common, which is crazy. But that's my most memorable moment.
Nice. What about horror stories? Have you had any situations like leaving your tripod head at home?
Oh, you don't know me, Grant, but I am like safety first. That's me. So I really try to avoid horror stories. Like I'm really try to be prepared. And so I don't have a lot of horror stories. My horror stories, though, involve camera gear.
Yeah.
So I had a camera, or like I said early on a tripod, it went over. I turned around to get something out of my bag. Horrible crunch behind me. And it was my tripod and my camera hitting the rocks. And oh, man. And it was a brand new lens. It was my first pro lens. It was a 70 to 200. And I had only had it for 3 months. And it cracked the front of it. And it was really badly damaged. And I was photographing these dogwoods along the Merced River. So I just got a different lens, popped it on, and kept shooting. And I felt like I was just so professional, continuing working. And then I got done and I put the camera in the bag and I got back to the car and I cried.
I think we've all done that, though. The tripod toppling over is very common. I've killed it was a 24 to 70, and
Mine was 24 to 70.
And I picked it up and the focus ring wouldn't turn. It was locked because basically the way that it had hit, it had actually put the whole thing out of whack. Yeah, that one's dead. Threw that one in the bin.
Very sad. Very sad. Mine, I fixed mine. It was because I'd only had it for 3 months. It was just out of warranty.
Yeah, okay. Mine was a bit older than that, but
I had bought it with a Visa card, and I think if it had happened just a little bit sooner, Visa would have covered it. But
nice.
Anyway, I got fixed, and it turned out that lens was like my favorite lens, and maybe it just had the softness to it that I love, and maybe it was damage that I did to it. I don't know, but I used that lens for many years and loved it.
Wow. Yeah. What has photography taught you about nature?
Oh, to slow down and respect and notice. Yeah. I think before that, I was always hiking and trying to get from point A to B. Photography taught me to stop and notice.
Yeah.
And really respect nature. I've seen some really amazing things that maybe I would have just walked by before. Now I don't. I see them. Things like ice plants coming up out of the ground and interesting spider webs or little tiny details that I might have walked by before. I don't walk by them anymore. I notice them. And what's great is now I've got my husband notices them. He's now trained to start spotting little things.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I think it is interesting once a photographer starts to develop what people call a photographer's eye, and they start to see the world in frames. And you start to visualize things as you're driving, as you're walking, wherever it is, and you go, oh, that could be a shot. You don't have to take the shot, but you can appreciate it for what it is at the time that you see it and just go, yes, that would actually make a nice shot.
Yeah, that's true. Once you have trained your eye, you can't untrain it.
You can't stop doing it.
Yeah, it's wonderful. quite wonderful.
Yeah. Are you straight into editing when you get back from a shoot, or do you let things marinate for a while?
I process immediately.
Okay.
I download and I do some light processing, and the reason I do that is because it's really fresh in my memory of how it looked, and if the camera does a pretty good job, but it's not perfect at
Sure.
putting things look like. So I try to do some very light processing in Lightroom just to get a feel for what it looked like, how I remember it.
Yep.
But I do all my heavy lifting in Photoshop when I get home to my studio. That's where I mostly do most of my processing.
Yeah. What does the process look like? Is it hours on a piece? So
Yes.
obviously, yes, it might be,
Yes. Or
but
it depends. Yeah, it depends.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm a perfectionist for sure. I think you have to be doing this kind of work, but I'm also highly experimental. So it might take me a while of finding the right feel for a piece. There's no pat answer.
yeah,
I had athletes, which Lightroom filter do you use on your photos? Is what? I didn't even know what they meant. About a filter. So it's just this raw process of just figuring out how to bring out what I remembered it feeling like and looking like.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I tend to be straight into it, though. I've just got back from a trip to the UK, and there's a few there, particularly from the drone, where I haven't even opened the images. I know I have an idea about what they look like, but I have no idea what they actually look like. I haven't looked at them from that trip, and that was about a week or so ago. So it'll be interesting to dive into that because I haven't had the sort of immediacy and memory there. But I also find going back through archives, and because of so many images that I haven't edited, I've taken them, I know what they look like, and I've picked the eyes out of most of the set that I've got. But there's ones that you come back to and you go through some of the ones that you might have thought, oh, that's close to being, and then you take another look and there's new technology or there's different things that you can apply to it because you've learnt different techniques. And I find that quite a good experience going back to some of the what were secondary images and making them close to primaries, if not primaries. And sometimes they're even better than the original one that you did the day after you got back from the shoot. And for me, that's a lot of fun, is going back through the archive and finding stuff. Do you do that a lot?
if I can't get out and shoot very much, yeah, I'll dive into the archives. I call it dumpster diving. Sometimes I find some good things in there, but that maybe I missed because there was a better one or something. And
Yeah.
I'll find gems, or like when you're in the field and you remember, oh, that was the frame that it all came together. And so when you get back, you're like, okay, you focus on that frame that you knew was great,
Yeah.
but then might have been something else going on that you missed. But usually my instincts in the field are right. If I am shooting and I'm working to achieve something, there's a process. I can look at the progress of my shots and say, yeah, I was working towards this one at the end. And it's oftentimes the one at the end that is the winner. That's the one that I work on because I
Absolutely.
was consciously getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will oftentimes just discount earlier pieces because I don't even go back and look at those because
Wow.
know that that's where I ended up.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I'm a bit the same with some. There are other times when, particularly with the recent addition of adaptive color, I don't know if you've seen the adaptive color in both Lightroom and Adobe Camera Raw. There's a new color profile, and it's AI based, and it will actually adapt both the light and the color in your image without changing any of the exposure sliders or any of the other sliders. Yeah, it is interesting because I've gone back to some of the images that I've taken maybe in a bracket where I've done exposure bracketing, and you pull one of those out and pop it in there, and just literally I started doing this just to see what happened with a couple of them. And hitting that button, you've still got total control over everything, but that initial color profile gives you a different look to if you just used Adobe Color or Adobe Landscape or one of the other color profiles. And I just found it really interesting to start playing around with individual images out of a bracket and seeing what I could get from it without necessarily using the full bracket of 3 or 5 shots that I might have in the archive. And it was something that I don't mind the look of in some cases. It doesn't work for every image. Sometimes it just makes it look horrible and I'll just close that and not look at that anymore. But sometimes it just goes and takes one of those images and makes it something a little bit better than what the original raw file was.
No, interesting.
But then, as I say, you can still play with everything else that's all of the other sliders are basically untouched. But it does change it lifts shadows a little bit if they're too dark, damps down highlights a little bit if they're too bright. So it actually gives you, in some cases, particularly those mid-range shots in a bracket, it'll actually give you quite a nice histogram to start working with, and then you start playing around with your exposure and your colour and your curves adjustments and all those sorts of things. All I'm saying, take a look.
Manual type of girl.
Yeah, I am too. But I found it really interesting to experiment with and play with. I found a few shots that it works really nicely with.
Well, no, I think that those kinds of tools are really useful. Nothing else just to get your creative juices going. If you're not really sure where to go and what to do, then yeah, I can understand using tools like that.
As I said, doesn't work with every image.
Yeah, I usually know where I'm going with an image. So I have my things that I do because I usually know where I'm going. Whoops, sorry.
Fair enough. Have you ever struggled to find inspiration in your photography? And if so, how did you handle that? How do you handle hitting that creative wall that a lot of photographers hit and they go, I'm just not feeling it?
No, I do something completely different. I think that every artist hits those moments where they expect too much of themselves. They feel like they should be creating more. And I've learned, having been an artist my whole life, is that when those moments happen, to not panic and just do something else for a while and just be okay with that. Don't guilt trip yourself and don't feel like you should be doing more brilliant work. Just do something else. Go to a art museum, go write something, journal, play an instrument, do something completely different, but creative.
Yeah.
Something different. Or not. Go do something physical, work out,
Ride a bike.
Do anything, but don't be hard on yourself. I think that's the part that artists do, is that we just really are good at beating ourselves up when we're not.
Oh, yeah.
And we're not creating. I think artists, we get such a high out of creating work that when we're not, it feels really defeating. And I've been through that a lot. Being a graphic designer, you don't get to have downtime. You're paid to be creative like all the time. And that was really awful at times when you don't feel like being creative, and yet you have a project that's due and you've got to
push through it. Yeah.
So these days, because I don't have to be creative on cue, I'm able to roll with it and just say, that's fine. I'm not creative right now. I'm not creating work, and I'm going to do something different for right now. And it's not forever. It's just for a while, and until that spark gets lit again. And it usually gets put again. It will. It comes around. So you just have to sit with it.
Yeah. What about imposter syndrome? Have you ever had to deal with that?
Maybe early on.
Okay.
Starting, I think that when I first started doing this, it came very naturally to me because of my background in art and Photoshop, and it was very easy to transition for me once I just figured a few things out. I thought, I'm not that good. Come on, this wasn't that hard. But the truth is that it wasn't that hard for me. And the truth is also I think that the barriers into photography now are lower. When I was a lot younger and doing photography, I had a dark room. You had to have a whole room with chemistry and trays and all this stuff. There was a lot of equipment that you had to own, and it took up a lot of space. Of course, my studio takes up a lot of space now. My dark room took up a lot of space too.
Yeah.
But but it was harder back then to be good at photography. Now in a way, like it was easier. So when I first started out and it was so easy to get good, I did have imposter syndrome for sure.
Yeah.
It was too easy because photography was always so hard. It was always hard. It was always a struggle. It was always difficult. But somehow in the digital world, going from graphic design into photography and already having all the technical skills that I needed to do, it was easy for me. And I felt that I wasn't that good. I felt that I didn't deserve. If people said my work was good, you don't understand. Yeah, I don't think that much anymore because I do work hard now.
Yeah.
I don't discount it. I don't discount myself. And I recognize how hard I work to create quality work. But yeah, I think it's not uncommon for people to have imposter syndrome.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah, I still get it occasionally. But I think you did hit on something there that a lot of people who suffer from it probably don't recognise, is that it is about recognising how much work you've put into something and actually saying, oh, actually, yeah, it's not just me going out, taking a shot, sticking it on a computer, doing a quick edit and sticking it on social media. Okay, for some people, that might be all they want to do. But if you're printing work, you're wanting to sell work and that sort of thing, I think you do put a lot more effort into it than just those 2 or 3 steps. And recognising that goes a long way to making you realise, oh, actually, yeah, I am worth it. My work is worth it. My work actually has value in the world.
Yeah, I think it's also just as you said, it's not just the work that you're putting in like right now into getting a beautiful photograph or going out and taking that photograph. It's your life experiences and everything that led up to that. Like for you, it was your technical experience. All of the things that made Grant Swinburne who he is got him to this place where he could create this photograph that's beautiful.
Yep.
There's no one else in this world like you who has those world experience who's going to make a photograph just like you.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. And for me, when I hit that, was like, this was too easy. I discounted the decades of work I had done being an artist. It seemed easy because I was already an artist. It was an easy for me to get there. And so that's why I was like, this can't be that good because that was too easy.
Yeah.
I don't do that anymore.
Fair enough. You also hit on something that people that have been involved in film photography for a few years understand as well, is that film photography is hard. There are so many places where you can screw up photo in film and there's no way back. There's no undo button.
That's right.
Don't nail the focus in the first place in the field, you don't nail the composition there, then okay, you can do a bit of cropping, but there's only so much you can do. If you then don't nail the processing in the negative, you're going to end up with something that won't give you any good result. And then if you don't get the processing and the timing and the balance of your chemical baths and all that sort of thing, you don't end up with a good print. And each of those steps has its own reward if you get them all right, but also penalty, and quite a big penalty if you don't.
That's right. That's right. So it's easier now to get a really good result because of the tools. It's not to say that everybody who picks up a digital camera is going to get a great result.
No, and it's not about buying the best camera either.
Yeah, but good gear helps, that's for sure. It really does.
We've touched on photography in society and its value slightly there in that conversation. What do you see as photography's value in society? What's its place?
Oh boy, Grant. I think that I used to think that we were documenting back when I was in journalism.
Yep.
Thought of photography that way as a tool of documentation. Now I consider myself a witness, that I'm bearing witness to nature.
Yep.
Beauty of nature, of what it is right now. It still feel in a way like I'm documenting, but I'm documenting in a different way. I'm documenting just how breathtakingly beautiful our natural world is. And stop to look at it and appreciate it, that it's worth saving and preserving. Hopefully that comes through of how important it is to preserve our natural world. Because I hope what I'm doing is not documenting something that's going to be gone.
Yeah.
There's this part of me that feels like maybe that's what I'm doing. There's places I've photographed that are gone, trees and places just don't exist anymore because of fires. Wildfires in California have been pretty awful.
Yep.
So some places that I photographed are just simply not there anymore. So that's one thing. So maybe my role is to bear witness. I don't know if everybody else who's doing this feels the same way, but that's how I feel.
Interesting. Yeah. I love that. What do you see as the future of photography? Where do you see it going?
Oh, goodness. I don't know. I think that it's just such crazy times. I don't even bother with social media anymore because it's just so depressing.
I find it depends on what you look at. If you look at all the depressing stuff, you'll see more depressing stuff. If you look at enlightening and interesting photography and that sort of thing, more of that. So I've tended to do quite a lot of crafting and blocking in my social media to get rid of some of the nastier elements and promote some of the better elements. And I've found a much healthier social media experience through that.
Okay, I'll try that, Grant. I'll give that a try. 'Cause
It
right
takes
now,
work. It does take work.
it's like nobody seems to understand the difference between something that's AI generated
Yeah, that's a big problem.
on. So I think that authenticity is going to be more important than ever. I think that at least personally, I'm going to keep just doing what I'm doing. I'm not going to use AI. I'm not going to try to pass my work off as real when it's not. I think that authenticity is always going to have value. That's what I intend to do. It's not to say that I might start doing something like collages. I have no idea. I like making art. I like making visual art in particular. But when it comes to representing nature, I think that authenticity and being really honest and truthful about what you're depicting is important,
Yeah.
at least for me.
No, totally agree. Yeah. What's your favorite thing about being a photographer?
Gosh, I don't know. Being able to take pictures.
It can be as simple as that. I like that.
I don't know. If I don't, it's funny. People think of me as a photographer, and that's like just such a little part of who I am.
Sure.
But I love doing it, and I'll keep doing it as long as it makes me happy, and it makes me happy.
Fair enough. What's your least favorite thing?
I was going to say the tripod, but my tripod and I are finally at peace with one.
You're in a good place.
We're in a good place. Yeah. I've been with this tripod and I have been together now for about a decade and getting along very well. It hasn't let me down, hasn't cheated on me. This tripod is very reliable.
A loyal tripod's important.
A loyal tripod. I've had some tripod trauma in my past, as I've mentioned. Very important. But no, I think that the big thing is it's such a beautiful thing, Grant. It's like the older I get, the lighter the equipment's getting really good. And I'm shooting now with a Hasselblad, which is a medium format camera, which is a fairly heavy camera. But guess what? It has 10 stops of image stabilization. So I don't always have to use a tripod. I can hand holding with a lot of stuff with that camera. That takes quite a lot of weight off my back.
Yeah.
I'm usually huffing 35 pounds of gear on my back, which is getting old. I'm getting old and that's getting heavy. And I'm really rejoicing in technology getting better and making it easier to be a photographer.
Excellent. What do you like to do when you're not out shooting and doing photography? What else does Charlotte get up to?
Oh my goodness. I do a lot of hiking and I hike without the camera.
Okay.
I do a lot of cycling without the camera and I play guitar. And I love to write. I'm not that great at it, but I enjoy it. So I write. So yeah, well, that's about it these days. I love to kayak and be out. If it's outside, I'm doing it. I
Sounds
don't like to be cooped up too much.
and of course, you're building a house. So.
That's the big one right now. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself when
It does become all consuming.
It is. Right now, especially it is. And we'll see when it's all done. Maybe it'll become something else. I don't know. I'm volunteering in my little town in Yosemite.
Yep.
I do a lot of volunteering, and so now I'm stepping up to take a position on a board, which will be nice to be part of that community.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I like volunteering where I can. I like to help people. I like to help out neighbors, whoever needs.
Fantastic. Speaking of people needing some help, are there any photographers out there that you think I should be talking to on the podcast?
Oh, and you're going to ask me that. So I'm very biased, of course, and I don't want to just say this.
Biases are fine.
So first of all, I looked at your list of photographers you've already had on, and you've had on so many already, and so many that I would have recommended you've already talked to. But there's a few that I noticed that were missing from your list, and they are all friends of mine. That's why I said that I'm not unbiased.
Nepotism is fine.
Chrissy Donati is a photographer friend of mine. She's a teacher, wonderful person, wonderful photographer, and wonderful educator. Another pal of mine is Beth Young. She's an architect and also a good pal of mine. I've known her for well over a decade now, and we're good friends. But she's always pushing herself into new areas of photography, and I really admire that a lot about her. Another one is Michelle Sons, and
Okay.
really one of the more thoughtful photographers I know. A really good writer, a really good artist. And of course, all of these women are excellent photographers. The last one is Ellen Borgrave, and she's a Dutch photographer. And she and I have never met, but we correspond a lot. And her work is just breathtakingly beautiful. Yeah, so she does a lot of woodland photography, and she's been doing it for a very long time. And it's a very beautiful work. And she's a very interesting person, and I think she would have a lot to say to you that maybe you wouldn't hear from other guests.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
My last question is one that everyone on the podcast wants to know the answer to. Do you like pineapple on pizza?
Oh, I like any pizza. However, I've never met a pizza I didn't like,
No.
even pineapple.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Charlotte. It's been absolutely wonderful getting to know you more and understanding quite a lot about you and how you work. Where can people find your work?
On my website, charlottegibb.com. Pretty easy. I'm also on Instagram. I'm actually fairly active on Instagram, more so than Facebook.
Sure.
That's probably a good place to find me, either one of those.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Charlotte.
All right. Thanks, Grant.
Thanks again for listening to Landscape Photography World. I hope you enjoyed the show, and keep listening because I'll be joined by some great guests in upcoming episodes. You can find my work in this podcast at gruntswinburnphotography.com, along with prints, photography gear, and I'm also on Vero, Photo, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Don't forget to comment and subscribe because it really helps the podcast to get seen and heard. I'm Grant Swinburne and hope to see you out shooting soon.